keep away from these Disney World experiences. Not everything in Disney World is over the top magical. In fact, some of these might threaten to break you, literally and figuratively. Hey everybody, it's AJ for Disney Food Blog. If you're getting ready to plan a Disney World trip, but you're wondering if there's anything about your future visit that you shouldn't touch with a 39.5-foot pole, as the Grinch would say, then I am here to tell you, yes, definitely. There are several things you're going to want to avoid in Disney World like the plague, or like a stale metaphor, that could potentially hinder the vacation you've really been looking forward to. So let's talk about them now so you can avoid them later. We're going to tell you how. Okay, first up is spending way too much money on a hotel room. If you love the vibes of the Disney Deluxe resorts, but you don't love the price tags, that doesn't mean you're not going to be allowed to see these bougie hotels, even if you decide to stay somewhere else, somewhere cheaper. If you decide to not stay at one of Disney's most expensive hotels, like Polynesian Village, Riviera, Animal Kingdom Lodge, you can still book meals here and stroll the hotel grounds and pay for recreational activities like boat rentals or painting courses or specialty tours. Here are the only things you won't be able to do. Take advantage of the extended evening hours benefit. Swim in the pools, use the gym, see the rooms, and park your car in a resort parking lot, unless you have an advanced dining reservation for one of the restaurants. Otherwise, you'll need to plan on taking one of Disney's complimentary transportation services or budget extra dollars for a rideshare. Other than that, you can still spend the day visiting your dream Disney hotels, but crash each night in a room that's not going to break the bank. Now, I love this next tip. This is something that I want to talk about all the time, and Bria only lets me talk about once in a while. Losing vacation days. Despite how many days you've set aside for your Disney World trip, you can still manage to lose time on vacation. How? Your journey getting there and getting home. If you book a flight to arrive in Disney World for the evening, then right there you've already lost a full day in Disney World when you could have booked a morning flight and still been able to check out your resort pool, shop around Disney Springs, or even hit up a park if you'd gotten in early enough. Even if your room may not be ready for you until 3 p.m., the front desk of your hotel will be able to hold your luggage for you until it is ready, so you don't have to lug your big bags around all day long. And the opposite can be said about the last day of your trip. If you catch an early flight out of MCO, you won't get the chance to soak up your last day in Disney, hitting up anything you might have missed earlier in the week. But if you catch a later flight, then this could be your chance to eat one last Disney meal, explore one last Disney hotel, and who knows, maybe even enjoy one last round of mini golf if time allows. Don't forget, you can still use the pool at your hotel, even if you've already checked out. Same thing can be said about driving to and from Disney World. Depending on how you pace your travel schedule, you can either earn more vacation time or deprive yourself of it. So make sure to look up all the potential flight possibilities and all the potential driving routes that'll get you to Disney World with plenty of time to spare, to help you milk what limited vacation time you've got for all it's worth. Now, you're definitely going to want to avoid code Vs. Sometimes it feels as if cast members speak their own secret language, but I'm about to fill you in on an important CM phrase that you might hear every now and then, and when you do hear it, it is best to get out of the way. The phrase Code V might be more commonly heard around rides like Mission Space and EPCOT or Mad Tea Party in Magic Kingdom. Why? Because it means there's been a protein spill, aka someone's thrown up. Now, these spinny rides are not for the faint of heart or stomach, so don't feel bad if it's happened to you. But how does Disney tackle this situation? Well, if a cast member spots the mess, they'll make sure to contact the right people, but if you were to see it first, it's super important to track down a cast member and report it to them so they can call custodial. Custodial cast members are trained to deal with those messes, and they'll make sure to get it cleaned up quickly and safely. But what do you do if you just so happen to be the person who had the protein spill? Well, first of all, like I said, it happens more often than you may think, so don't feel as if you just completely ruined the park or anything. Second, a cast member will more than likely point you in the direction of the park's first aid location, which you can also find on the map or in the My Disney Experience app. There, you can get upset tummy meds or treatment for whatever minor ailments might be pulling you down. These first aid cast members can also walk you through some possible next steps if your condition is worse than just some motion sickness or an upset stomach, which hopefully isn't the case, but I have had food poisoning in Disney World. It is not fun. Next thing you want to avoid, visiting EPCOT on the wrong day. Who would have thought that there'd be a wrong day to explore the World Showcase? But there is one. There's a very, very wrong day. Throughout the year, EPCOT has 4 different festivals: Festival of the Arts, Flower and Garden, Food and Wine, and Festival of the Holidays. Is the word festival sounding strange? Yes. Even though we're pretty used to seeing these festivals appear year after year, locals and out-of-town guests alike are always stoked to see their favorite fests return, especially when they hear about new offerings that'll be added this time around. That means the very first day of a new festival, or the first weekend of a new festival, tends to be the busiest. We're talking massive lines for food booths, festival merchandise being swiped off the shelves real fast, and shoulder-to-shoulder crowds in pretty much every pavilion. If you want to check out one of the EPCOT festivals, the best time for you to do so without all the hustle and bustle is to go mid-season or at least the second week. And make sure to go during the middle of the week. That way food lines won't be as wild and you'll be able to fully explore the festival without other guests constantly invading your personal bubble. I always like to go right at the beginning of the day, around 11 a.m. That's when those booths open, in the middle of the week. Now, that being said, our DFB reporters are thrown into the thick of things during the first day festival madness for every single one of them in order to let you know what food booths you're going to want to prioritize and which ones you're going to want to skip before your visit. We always go to every single booth for every single festival on the first day so that you can see what's there and what's available. Now, we always post a Best of the Fest video on our YouTube so you can know which items knocked our socks off, but if you want to know about every festival food and offering, you can download our most updated EPCOT festival guides from dfbstore.com. Just make sure to type the code YouTube before you check out so you can save money on your purchase. Now, of course, we're going to talk about when to plan your trip and when to not plan your trip. We are friends here. I'm going to give you a little heart-to-heart that you may not be ready to hear. There's a very good chance that your peak season Disney World vacation you're currently planning isn't going to be the dream come true you were hoping it would be. And I'm not just talking about Epcot's festivals. I'm talking about all those peak season times where thousands of other guests are getting ready to take on the exact same vacation that you've been planning. So here are just a few time frames you might want to brace yourself for or avoid altogether that are coming up soon. Memorial Day weekend, that's 3 days off at the end of May. Sounds like the best case scenario for a quick Orlando getaway, but you're not the only family thinking that. This weekend tends to be the busiest weekend of the month, with surge prices for tickets and hotels bumped up higher than the rest of May's offerings. Then the 3rd and 4th of July, summer can see some mighty hefty crowds, and the biggest crowds of the summer peak around Independence Day, especially for Magic Kingdom, which usually has a limited time 4th of July nighttime spectacular on both the 3rd and the 4th. Labor Day weekend, similar to Memorial Day, Labor Day's 3-day weekend can produce the highest crowds you're going to see during September, which is normally one of the slowest months in the year. Thanksgiving week, with lots of schools being out of session for Thanksgiving break, those temps dropping down in Orlando to a more reasonable level, and Christmas decor sprucing up the parks and resorts, the week of Thanksgiving becomes a perfect storm, where guests tend to flood the parks in droves. And the week after Christmas, the festivities don't end right when Christmas does. You're going to see more guests coming to Disney for the Holly Jolly season after December 25th than you will leading up to the actual holiday, and that's saying something since the whole month of December can be very busy with major crowd levels. Now, though these dates are by no means crowd-proof, here are some times of year you might want to plan for instead. The first half of June is when summer vacation is just starting for many students and teachers, so if you can get ahead of all those vacationers, you may still be able to visit the parks in the summer when the crowds are more reasonable. And though July can still be very busy, many folks will start dispersing from the parks after 4th of July concludes, so you might find that the next week is way less busy than you may have originally predicted. August and September, that is back to school season. It's the time of year that Disney considers their slow season, which not only means fewer people, but also lower prices. And if you really want to see Disney all decked out in Christmas garb, the earlier on in the season you can visit, like say the beginning of November, the better off you're going to be. Now, if you want to know how to avoid those crowds because you do happen to have a trip booked during those busy times, that's fine. Don't worry about it. We got you. We got a great video all about how to avoid crowds in Disney World. I think it's our 50 best tips, so definitely check that one out. We talk about all the options. Now, once you've chosen the right time to go, we're going to avoid choosing the wrong lightning lanes first. Paying for Disney Genie Plus in order to bypass the main lines for rides and then still getting stuck in massive lines regardless can be the main reason why that little vein in your forehead is throbbing like crazy. It's already stressful enough to have to pay so much extra money for lightning lane capability, but just imagine paying that $15 to $35 per person per day and still having to stand hours in line for a ride. That is gross. If you're going to buy Genie Plus for any of the parks, then you're going to need to know what to prioritize first, since, red alert, lightning lanes can get all booked up solid during the day. Here are the most popular Genie Plus selections for each of the parks that could sell out early on. In Magic Kingdom, aim to book Peter Pan's Flight, Jungle Cruise, and Space Mountain as early as you can. In Epcot, the sooner you can book Test Track, Frozen Ever After, and Remy's Ratatouille Adventure, the better. In Hollywood Studios, you're going to want to grab Slinky Dog Dash, Tower of Terror, and Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway first. And in Disney's Animal Kingdom, you probably will be A-okay and not have to stress over not getting the lightning lanes you want. But if you are prioritizing here, then it's best to get lightning lanes for Navi River Journey, Kilimanjaro Safaris, and Kali River Rapids, if you're a big water ride fan, that is. I just hate waiting in the line for that one because it is so hot. Now you can purchase Genie Plus as early as midnight on the day of your visit, and lightning lanes will go live starting at 7 a.m. So make sure you're ready to make your first selection as soon as possible so you can get the most out of this premium planning tool. Now, next thing to avoid in Disney World is forgetting to register your family members. Stitch said it best, Ohana means family, and family means nobody gets left behind or forgotten. And I'm sure when Stitch said this, he was also referring to the My Disney Experience app because context is subjective. Now, if you're traveling with multiple family members and you want to be synced up when it comes to all your reservations, lightning lanes, and virtual queues, then you're going to need to make sure everyone's got a profile that's linked to a central My Disney Experience account before your trip. In order to do this, tap on those 3 horizontal lines to the bottom right-hand side of the My Disney Experience app, select My Profile, and then Friends and Family List. You'll then scroll down to where it says Add a Guest. After you do that, it'll ask you how you want to add the guest and present you with 3 options. Number 1 is finding them through the My Connected Guests, which you'll choose if the family member you're traveling with has already done a Disney trip with you previously and already's got a profile attached to your account. Option 2 is entering a guest's name and age, which you'll do if someone is either A, not old enough to make their own account yet, or B, has never traveled to Disney World before and probably isn't going to travel again and doesn't have a pre-existing account. And option 3 is scanning a guest's linking code. This is when you're traveling with someone who has been to Disney World, does have a My Disney Experience account, and they've never taken a trip with you, so they aren't attached to your account yet. Linking accounts is real easy. You can either scan your friend or family member's linking code, which you can find under their profile. By the way, they generate a new one every 30 minutes, so when they generate one, you gotta use it in 30 minutes or get another one. Or you can manually enter the code, which you can also find under their profile in the exact same place. Once everyone in your travel group's all linked up to the same MDE account, you should be able to share your plans and coordinate things very easily for your trip. Next thing you can avoid in Disney World, buying something just because everyone else wants it. Are you only getting that giant Gideon's Bakehouse cookie because you heard it was the most popular dessert in Disney Springs, even though you'd really rather pick up a cupcake from Sprinkles instead? Are you booking a stay at Disney's Grand Floridian Resort and Spa because your neighbors back home said it was the only worthwhile hotel, but you really kind of want to stay on the Skyliner route during your trip? Or are you booking a lightning lane for those most popular rides in Magic Kingdom that I just listed, but you really wanted to prioritize things like Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, Haunted Mansion, and Pirates of the Caribbean instead? At the end of the day, it does not matter what the majority says you should do, or what your neighbors think you should do, or even what I want you to do. This is your trip, so do and get and book what you want, and not what everyone else thinks you should want, or what your buddies at the PTA say you should do, or what your friends on Facebook say. Don't get me wrong, it is good to listen to advice of folks who've been to the parks recently, especially if this is your first trip, because they've got a first-hand experience with this stuff. Just remember to take that advice with a grain of salt. For instance, I'm not a huge fan of the magic carpets of Aladdin in Magic Kingdom. I'd much rather go on an aerial carousel like Dumbo or Astro Orbiter. But if you or someone in your group adores Aladdin, then this is the only Aladdin-centered ride on property, so waiting in line for it may be the best thing for your group. It's all about balance. Know when to ask for advice, but also know that in order to pull off the perfect trip for your group, you're going to have to do a bit of research too, and weigh the options of your fellow travelers. It is absolutely okay if you don't do what everyone else says you have to do, and it's absolutely okay if you decide to follow someone else's itinerary for the whole trip. You do you, make yourself happy, the end. All right, now this one we have some really, really significant experience with. Ordering brightly dyed foods. Okay, you may think this is silly that I'm putting this in this video, but it is not all that silly. Those brightly colored, unnatural looking Disney snacks seem really fun, and you can take Instagram pictures of them, but before you commit to the multicolored treats, stop and think about if you want stained teeth for the rest of the day. That blue cookie dough Dole Whip over at Swirls on the Water in Disney Springs is delicious, but when you eat it, it's got the potential to turn everything blue, including your teeth, your tongue, your shirt, because Dole Whip dries really fast in the sun. So think about that first before you buy some of this stuff. There is a cupcake that used to come out on Halloween for the Halloween party, and it was black frosting, very black frosting. and it was just unbelievably embarrassing to talk to anybody for the rest of the party. So now I pack a toothbrush in my bag just in case. Now, is a weird dye job on your face the worst thing that could happen during your trip? No. In fact, it might be cute to capture that moment your kids bite into that ice cream or cupcake or cookie for the first time and make a mess everywhere. But if you're paying a lot of money for Memory Maker and you want some cute professional family pictures to frame and commemorate during your trip, then the dyed mouth and hands look might get old real fast. Speaking of Memory Maker, if you're planning on paying the big bucks for Memory Maker during your upcoming trip, then you're not going to want to miss out on these. Disney World has PhotoPass photographers stationed throughout the theme parks, ready to take your picture with iconic backgrounds like Cinderella Castle and Tower of Terror. But sometimes those photographers can add a little extra magic to your pictures by digitally adding in extra elements or even Disney characters. Those special shots are called magic shots, and they're one of the main reasons you may want to invest in a PhotoPass picture rather than just have a regular quick pic snapped on your phone. Most of the time, a PhotoPass cast member will add a magic shot to your little photo session without you having to ask. You'll know when they're up to something special when they ask you to hold out your hand and pretend like you're reacting to something, or point up and gasp at an unseen entity. But before your photo session, it's always good to let a cast member know that your group's interested in having a magic shot taken if one's available at the location where you are. Magic shots aren't blatantly advertised around the parks, but you can always ask cast members where certain ones are available. Or you can ask if there are any limited time magic shot opportunities that you can take part in, since exclusive magic shots can also pop up around certain holidays and festivals and big time celebrations. Now this next one you definitely want to avoid: missing your virtual queue. Tron Light Cycle Run is the newest coaster in Magic Kingdom, meaning it's also one of the most popular rides in the park right now. In order to help manage the crowds, Tron is currently only using a virtual queue system and individual lightning lanes to manage the demand for this one, meaning you can't just wait out your day in a standby queue if you want to experience the grid. Instead, you'll have to be ready bright and early at 7 a.m. on the My Disney Experience app to secure your spot in the virtual queue, or 1 p.m. if you missed that first go-round. Now, let's say you do happen to snag a virtual queue. Yay, you! I knew you could do it! Does that mean now all your Tron troubles are behind you? Well, not exactly. If and when you get in a boarding group for a virtual queue, you'll notice that the app will give you an estimated time of return. At some point in the day, Disney will send you a notification that your boarding group has been called, and then you'll have an hour to make your way over to the ride to scan in. But what happens if you're late? For the other virtual queue-based ride, Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind in EPCOT, Disney seems to be pretty flexible if you show up after your 1-hour return window. However, we have been monitoring the situation lately with Tron, and cast members seem to be a bit more strict when it comes to these return times. Disney even says on the main Tron webpage that arriving on time for your boarding group is important. It even further states late arrivals may not be accommodated. In general, an hour may seem like plenty of time to make it over to the ride, but if you happen to get called much earlier than you were anticipating and you're like in a whole other park at that time, then you might be piling stress onto your day that you could have definitely lived without. Make sure you keep an eye on those boarding groups and give yourself plenty of time to get back over to Tomorrowland so you don't have to scramble to keep from missing your return window altogether. And if you do get a boarding group for the 7 a.m. drop time, I'd say hold off on the park hopping for just a bit, especially if your group number is listed as group 100 or lower, because you might get called back to the ride way sooner than you think. Now, you might think this next one is bizarre, but hear me out. Don't make any big decisions without asking your kids first. So for the most part, kids are pretty honest and they're going to tell you exactly what they're thinking, even if it hurts your feelings a little bit. Same goes for Disney World. If your kid isn't a fan of getting their hair brushed on a regular basis, then there's no point in booking them for this magical and expensive experience for Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique. If they tend to be rather shy and would rather do anything other than sit on Santa's lap or take pictures with the Easter Bunny, then you need to slam on the brakes before booking advanced dining reservations for those character meals. And truth be told, your kid might not even want to go to Disney World at all. You might ask them about it and they'll say, nah, that they'd rather spend their summer at the lake or at camp or just chilling with their friends while playing video games indoors. It might be disappointing to hear them admit that, but oh my goodness, it's better to find out now than after you surprise them with a big old pricey Orlando vacation that they feel rather indifferent towards. Hate to break it to you parents, but sometimes our idea of how our kids will react to the parks is a prettier picture than how they actually respond to them. This doesn't mean that later on down the road your kid won't change their mind about Disney. They're kids. Changing is a part of how they figure out where they fit into this world, including their ever fluid likes and dislikes. But the important thing to remember is that having open communication with your kids about big trips like this can not only help potentially save you thousands of dollars, but also prevent major hurt feelings when the whole "you're going to Disney" suddenly falls flat. All right, listen, I know Cinderella Castle is distracting. I know your eyes are glued to that beautiful pink and blue structure just as soon as you start skipping your way down Main Street, USA, but I've witnessed one too many friends and family members twist their ankles on the infamous Main Street trolley tracks along the center path to just sit back and let it happen to you. So here's my big old flashing neon sign of warning. Make sure you're watching where you're going as you walk right down the middle of Main Street, USA, because those trolley tracks will trip you up seemingly from nowhere. Seriously, they are bullies. It happens to all of us. Don't feel silly if it happens to you, but keep an eye on your feet and be careful. Now that last one was kind of tongue-in-cheek, although it does happen all the time, not gonna lie. But this next one, you really want to pay attention to. Don't ignore the signals your body is sending. Dehydration, heat stroke, sunburn, blisters. These things happen every single day in Disney World. They happen to the experts, they happen to the pros, they happen to all of us, and they can genuinely ruin the rest of your Disney World trip. And yet, they're a very common problem. And even those of us who have experienced them still underestimate just how bad it can get. It's Disney World, a family-friendly vacation destination. How bad could it be? Very. Now, we're not kidding when we warn you about listening to what your body's telling you over and over and over again. So please do the following things. Ready? Drink plenty of water. More than you think you need. More than you need when you're at home. Seek out shade, restaurants, gift shops, indoor attractions. Apply the sunscreen, reapply the sunscreen, and pack reliable broken-in shoes with good arch support and moleskin band-aids to put in your park bag, just in case you start to feel a blister coming on. Better to deck your whole foot out in moleskin than deal with a blister, believe me. And don't forget, if you start to feel a little woozy in the park, maybe you're reacting to the heat, maybe you're not drinking enough water, whatever, go to the first aid location. There's first aid locations in all of the parks, and they know exactly how to help you. It might just take a little lay down, a little ice water, and you're gonna be fine. So many things in Disney World are going to provide you with tons of fun memories and jaw-dropping experiences, but the things that'll threaten to hurt your trip rather than make the best of it are the things you're going to want to steer clear of during your vacation for sure. Nobody needs to have a magical vacation ruined by something they can prevent. That's why we'll continue providing you with the good, the bad, and everything in between that you'll need to be on high alert for before your big Florida trip. So stay tuned for even more tricks and advice to come. You know we've got them, and we'll keep on giving them. Thanks for listening, everyone, and thanks for watching. As always, this is AJ for Disney Food Blog, and we'll see you real soon.